Hello and welcome back to World 360. One of the most important G20 meetings will take place in Delhi this week, the Foreign Ministers meeting. But will it be marked by chaos and walkouts like last year's? Also, what's happening in Nepal, where yet another political churn has changed the composition of the ruling government? We'll be covering all of this and more in this episode. First up, the G20 meet. As you know, India currently holds the one-year presidency of the G20, which is a group that includes 19 countries and the European Union. Now, on Thursday, foreign ministers from across the globe, including US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and many others will be attending the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting, during which the situation in Ukraine, Afghanistan, and spiraling food and energy prices are likely to be among the topics discussed. But what can we expect from this year's meet after last year's proved to be quite chaotic? Let's rewind to July 2022. During this time, Indonesia held the G20 presidency, and it was about 5 months into the Ukraine war. Tensions were running high. At the G20 Foreign Ministers meet in Bali, Western countries called for the end to the war and a grain blockade in Ukraine. The Russian Foreign Minister walked out of the meeting and no joint statement was issued after the session. Lavrov and Antony Blinken reportedly spoke directly with each other in the meeting room at that time before the former walked out abruptly. Let's not forget that this was the first face-to-face meeting between Russia and the US since the start of the Ukraine war. Fast forward to today, where the foreign ministers of Russia and the US will meet face-to-face, this time after the one-year anniversary of the Ukraine war. Will this meeting also be marked by high tensions and walkouts? Will Antony Blinken and Sergei Lavrov meet on the sidelines? It's difficult to say. India has also positioned itself in the middle of Russia, one of its major sources of military imports, and the US, a key strategic ally in the Indo-Pacific. India's position was reiterated at the recent UNGA assembly, where it once again chose to abstain from voting on a resolution calling for an immediate withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine. Let's also not forget that China's foreign minister will also be present in Delhi this week for the G20 meet, just weeks after the US and China locked horns over the spy balloon controversy and fears of the possibility of China providing military aid to Russia to use against Ukraine. So, what can we expect from the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting on 1st and 2nd March? For one, discussions will focus on strengthening multilateralism, as well as food and energy security, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, especially with the recent Turkey-Syria earthquake, and more. But if last week's G20 Finance Ministers meeting is any indication, Russian and Western leaders are likely to lock horns again. So let me just recap. Last week, Bengaluru hosted the G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bankers meeting, but Russia and Western countries couldn't exactly agree on the kind of language used in the joint communique. In the end, Russia and China, who did not physically attend the meeting, refused certain language used to criticize the Ukraine war. And in the end, a joint statement was not issued following the meeting. Will a joint statement be reached after this week's Foreign Ministers meeting? It's difficult to say. Furthermore, it is unclear whether India, as the G20 president, will agree to Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba addressing the gathering in virtual mode. To add to the confusion, reports have emerged that the Japanese foreign minister may not be present at the G20 foreign ministers meeting this week, despite Japan being a key strategic ally to India in the Quad and other forums. For our second topic, we're looking at the political crisis in Nepal. Maoist leader Pushpa Kamal Dahal, also known as Prachanda, became Prime Minister of Nepal last December. This was after he ditched his alliance with the Nepali Congress and instead aligned with another Maoist party in the country, the CPN-UML. It was a move that surprised many, but in the end solidified his position as PM. However, with the presidential election coming up on 9th March, alliances have changed once again. On Monday, the CPN-UML, led by KP Sharma Oli, withdrew support from Prachanda's coalition. This was because of Prachanda's decision to support a Nepali Congress candidate for the president's post and not a CPN-UML candidate. In a way, you could look at this as a political triangle between Prachanda's CPN-MC party, the CPN-UML and the Nepali Congress. Now, the Prachanda-led coalition will have to seek a vote of confidence in parliament. But he is likely to have a comfortable majority. According to the estimates, there are about 141 MPs backing Prachanda out of a total of 275 seats in parliament. This is above the minimum 138 seats required for a majority. Now, political turmoil in Nepal may not seem all that surprising, given that there have been 11 different governments in power since 2008. But what's also interesting to see is how quickly an alliance between two of the leading Maoist parties fell apart. More so, when the two parties were in alliance, KP Sharma Oli's party had more seats in the coalition than Prachanda's. In fact, at that time, out of the 165-seat coalition, Oli's party held 78 seats, while Prachanda's held just 32. In fact, Rakesh Sood, who served as ambassador to Nepal from 2008 to 2011, had told ThePrint last December that Prachanda would likely be a lame duck prime minister and Oli's puppet. It is possible that this will continue to be true, except that the Nepali Congress, with about 89 seats, will be calling the shots this time, while Prachanda serves as a prime ministerial face. For our last topic, we're looking at one of the most politically opaque countries in the world, North Korea. Due to the closed nature of North Korea when it comes to media and politics, it's often difficult to pinpoint what's exactly happening in the country. Therefore, journalists often have to rely on specific patterns, such as the frequency of certain political meetings. For example, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un recently called for a party meeting to discuss agricultural development just 2 months after a similar meeting was held. This recent meeting also comes after a recent report by the Stimson Center's 38th North program, which claimed that the current food insecurity in North Korea is almost as worse as the 1990s famines that took place in the country, though North Korea has denied these claims. So let's rewind to what happened in the 1990s. From 1994 to 1998, the country lost about 250,000 people in a major famine. However, some experts claim the death toll was well over 2 million. At the time, floods and drought had mainly triggered the famine, as well as the withdrawal of Soviet support that led to economic mismanagement. At the recent meeting held by Kim Jong-un, there was a call for scientific long-term objectives to reach the desired grain production goal this year and bring about a radical change in the country's agricultural production. Since the meeting, a lot of agricultural-related news has been flashed by North Korea's state media. For example, large amounts of compost have reportedly been transported to fruit farms. Farmers in the countryside have been moved into modern dwellings, and changes are being made to salt production in the country. These could be indications that the production of basic foods like salt and fruit need to be ramped up. Before we wrap up, let's look at the Global Hunger Index, which ranks North Korea 97th out of 121 countries. The level of hunger has been characterized as serious. According to this index, North Korea's rank has been consistently falling since 2000, and undernourishment of the population has been a major concern. Thanks for watching. This is Pia Krishnankutty for ThePrint.